Welcome to Covenant Communications Audio Library. We are pleased to present Wake Up From Your Phone by Hank Smith. We hope you enjoy the presentation.
Thank you so much. Hi. Go good, you talk. All right, good. Sometimes I get up here and hi, and everyone, right? Because that's what we do in sacrament meeting. These are our friends, our neighbors get up, they're so nervous, they're shaking, and we look at it, they're best friends, and we're going, right? That's a vote of confidence for you. Oh, it's good to be with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I think this is the second time I've been here. Is that right? And like 2 years ago we came here and we did something like this. So this is rare for me to get invited back somewhere. Yeah, this is not like high school. I rarely got a second date. So being invited back, that's a vote of confidence. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming. So one thing you need to know about me, and I hope it doesn't offend you, is I really like to laugh. I think laughter is awesome. In fact, I found probably my favorite quote the other day, and it's this. It's from Walt Disney. He said, "Laughter is no enemy to learning." And you need to know that I wholeheartedly believe that. So if you're one of these older people who has gotten into your mind that if people laugh, they're somehow not spiritual, you're going to be offended tonight. But I want you to go home and I want you to read Elder Bednar's talk on not being offended and how you need to be more humble. Okay? I want you to read that and it will help you through your problem. We're going to talk tonight about wake up from your phone. This comes from a conversation I had with a bishop about 3 months ago. He said to me on a Monday morning, he said, I conducted an interview yesterday with a young lady who was going from beehives to maids. It was her annual interview. And he said, as we sat down, she texted through the entire interview. It was just me and her. And she texted through this whole interview. He would talk to her. He's like, so how have you liked beehives? She's like, yeah, it's been good. As she looks down. It's been really... What was that? Okay. And he's like, are you excited about my mates? Yeah. Right, and she just kind of smiled like, oh, sorry. Right, she put it in her purse, and he said 2 minutes later, she's like, sorry. She's like, it's my friends. Okay, and he was like, oh. He's like, she had no idea I wanted to reach across the table and be like, patah, right, slap her across the head. She had no idea that this was so rude, that she was being horribly, horribly rude. So we're going to talk tonight about not allowing technology to take over your life. Now, I know this never happens to adults. This is something that they do not deal with. So you might just tune out for a little bit because you're like, no, I never get involved with technology. And just allow your teenagers. Now, if there's something that strikes home tonight to a member of your family, feel free to elbow them. All right, if you feel like, hey, that's meant for you right there. All right, now don't do it hard, just enough to bruise, okay? Just give them a little elbow, all right? So to let them know, hey, that would be good for you. Now, we are going to talk about technology, but all technology is a choice. It's really all it is. I want you to remember something, my teenage friends and even my older friends. All you are is the sum result of your choices. All you are, all your whole life is the sum result of your choices and the choices of other people that affect you. So if you want to be successful and have a successful life, make consistent, successful choices. And you will have a successful life. If you want to be a failure, make consistent failure-type choices and your life will be a failure. All you are is the sum result of your choices. You ever made a bad choice? Yeah, we do all the time. I got this haircut, right? We all make bad choices. It's no wonder that in the end of book 2, the prophet Dumbledore came to Harry Potter. Do you remember this? Not prophet, Professor Dumbledore. Sorry. In my house, he's a prophet. All right, Dumbledore came to Harry, and do you remember Harry Potter found out he was all like, what's his name with no nose? Do you remember? All right, you can't say his name. What's his name with no nose? He wanted to know why they were so much alike. Harry found out that he and Tom Riddle, the future guy with no nose, were way too much alike for comfort. And he said, what's up, Dumbledore? We are too much alike. And you remember what Dumbledore said? I loved it. Now, if you're in my house, we read Harry Potter, and I do all the voices. It freaks my kids out. All right, so I'm going to do my Dumbledore voice here. Okay, there he is. So I have to channel him, sorry. All right, that's Dumbledore throwing up. All right, here we go. Dumbledore turned to Harry Potter and said, it is our choices, Harry. that show what we truly are. Far more than our abilities. Right? Do you see him? You see him? He looks like Joseph F. Smith, doesn't he? All right. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are far more than our abilities. Do you believe that? It's our choices that show what we truly are far more than our abilities. Some of us were born with incredible abilities, yet we think we were solely responsible for those abilities. A lot of us think that, right? That God didn't give me these, I earned these abilities. Some of us were born on third base, but we think we hit a triple. And the problem with that is we think our choices got us there. Don't tell me about your abilities. Although I love that you're expanding your abilities, tell me about your choices. Tell me what you do with those abilities. Tell me what you do with that incredible musical gift you have. Do you bless lives? Tell me about that incredible genius mind that you have. My nephew Braxton comes with me. He is a genius computer guy. He can do computer things that I'm amazed at. He has really big feet. He's just on the way here. He's like, these shoes are getting a little tight. And I'm like, what size are they? He's like, I don't know, let me look. 16. I was like, oh, okay. Right? Let's go over to Bigfoot. Okay, excuse me, do you have any clothes? So, anyway, I'm going to ask Braxton, what are you doing with this ability? You have incredible ability. What are you doing with it? Are you serving yourself? Are you serving other people? Are you serving God's children? Right? It's our choices that show what we truly are far more than our abilities. So yes, we are going to talk about technology tonight, but what are we really talking about? We're really talking about choices. All right? We're really talking about... Now, here's the hard part. How do you tell a teenager they have a problem with technology? Parents all over the world have tried. Right? And what do they get? They get something to the effect of, no, I don't. Shut up, you're stupid. Right? I don't have a problem. You have a problem. Goodbye. I hate you. Right? So how are we going to help teenagers? Now, here's what we're going to do instead. I am not going to tell any teenager here that they have a problem with technology. That's not my place. I don't know you all that well. I am going to list for you symptoms of teenagers that have problems with technology. If you have these same symptoms, you may have a problem with technology, okay? But you get to be the one that decides, and the people next to you who might elbow you when they know you have that symptom. All right, so I'm going to go through a list of 10 symptoms. Some of them are a little extreme. I don't think anyone here will have it, but I wanted to bring it up just for the effect. All right, number one, some of you might have, though. This is our first symptom that you have a problem with technology. Number one, you've dropped your phone on your face because you were texting in bed. All right. Raise your hand if this has happened to you, please. Okay, so we already have some that have a problem with technology. You, my friends, have a problem with technology and coordination. All right? This is a bad thing. This girl, Mackenzie, came up to me the other day. She said, Brother Smith, it was an iPad. All right, so... yeah, ouch. Okay. So there's number one. If you have that symptom, you might be like, oh, maybe I have a problem with technology in my life. Here's number two. You have a picture of you in a bathroom mirror holding a cell phone, all right? Holding a camera phone. Okay. Now, I don't want you to raise your hands. Don't raise your hands if you have one of these. I'm just going to give you a little advice. If you have one of these pictures, you got to delete that picture. Okay? If you're like, no, Brother Smith, I look cute. No, you don't. You want to know why? You're in the bathroom. And nobody looks, oh, what cute hair, cute clothes. Nope, they go, ew, I think she's in the bathroom. She is. Right? There's a reason we don't take family photos. Everyone doesn't get in the bathroom, right, for their family photo. There's just a reason. So promise me you'll delete that picture. All right. Number three is a little extreme, but you might have thought about it. You would consider buying the iPotty. Now, this is a real product that you can purchase. It's $49.99 for the iPotty. Doesn't come with the iPad. Those of you who can't see this, it's a nice toilet seat with a stand for an iPad right in front of it. Okay? I think when you buy one, you're automatically entered in Worst Parent of the Year. Okay. This is the statement I had to read to you. This is from the advertisement. I'm not making this up. The iPotty has an adjustable stand which includes a removable touchscreen cover to guard against those messy accidents and smudges. I don't know who's in the marketing team for the iPotty, but that's not what I would have chosen for messy accidents and smudges. No, let's leave that part out. Now, by the way, if those of you who thinks that's a little bit gross, let me tell you this. I read a study the other day that it was 94%. They said 94% of the cell phones they tested randomly were 10 times as dirty as toilet seats. When's the last time you cleaned your phone? You're like, oh. Ew. Nice, nice. One guy stole a phone, got Ebola from the phone. Yeah, that's fate. Okay. All right, so that's number 3. Okay, I hope no one in here got elbowed on. Number 4, you're thinking of getting married over Skype. You guys, this is a true story, all right? This is from the New York Times. Let me read you this article. With a red embroidered veil draped over her dark hair, Annie held her breath last month as her fiancé said the words that would make them husband and wife. After she echoed them, they were married. The guests erupted in applause, and the bride and groom traded bashful smiles. But then the internet cut out, and the wedding was abruptly over. Why? The marriage had taken place on opposite ends of the globe. Their courtship, like so many others, had taken place entirely over the internet. Now, this is my favorite part. You ready for this? The giggling pair pretended to feed each other wedding dessert by holding forkfuls of cake to their computer screens. That's bad. That is just bad. So, now I'm not saying you can't meet online. Plenty of people meet online, and that's not a problem. But if you are in a relationship online, you're like, I love him. I don't know what he looks like. Yeah, you got to break up. All right. Number 5. This happens to more girls than you want to know. You use hashtags in face-to-face conversations. All right, yeah. Some of you are like, oh, I do that. This happened to me just the other day. I said, Stacy, this girl named Stacy's in my seminary class. I said, Stacy, nice job on that softball game. She's like, thanks, Brother Smith. I did really well. Hashtag YOLO. I was like, what? I was like, okay, hashtag good to see you. All right, so some of the old people here have no idea what I'm talking about. Hashtag? Hashtag. Is that like a hash brown? Is that like a hash brown? Is that breakfast? You get hashtags? No. Old people in phones are cute, aren't they? It's just fun to watch your parents or your grandparents with their phone. My grandma's like, it's speaking to me. Stop it, what do you want? Right? She's so funny. She thinks LOL means lots of love. Lots of love. Except it was real awkward when she was like, Grandpa passed away this morning. LOL. I was like, Grandma. All right, so. Sorry. That's not true. Okay. I just had to throw that one in there. All right, we're halfway through. Anybody have a problem with technology so far? All right, some of you are not admitting it. You're like, nope, I don't have a problem. All right, number 6. This one's for the boys. Your parents hire an online hitman to kill you. This is a true story. All right, listen to this. A man hired an online hitman to track down and kill his son's virtual characters. The kid had become addicted to video games. He'd lost his job, dropped out of school, and the dad had no idea what to do, so he hired in-game assassins to kill him every time he logged on. That is ingenious. All right. Listen to this statement. I found this statement just a little bit weird. The idea was that his son would get so bored of being relentlessly killed that he would eventually give up. Where would you ever hear that statement? I just want him to get so bored of being killed that he'll just give up. Wonderful, wonderful. Number 7 is also an attack on the boys. Sorry about this. You're okay with video games ruining your life because the game says you have 3 more lives. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Have you ever talked to one of these gamers? I mean, these like hardcore gamers. These guys are interesting to talk to. One I spoke to the other day, he was like, yeah, I went outside once. The graphics weren't that good. I was like, oh, okay, weirdo. All right. Number 8. Number 8 is this. This is a true story as well. You drugged your parents so they wouldn't turn the internet off. Okay, you're not going to believe that, but it's straight out of a California newspaper. 2 Placer County teenage girls were arrested for allegedly using drugged milkshakes to knock out one of the girls' parents so they could log on to the internet. The parents routinely shut off internet access at their home at 10 p.m. The police department says that on Friday evening, a 15-year-old girl and her 16-year-old friend who was visiting offered to pick up milkshakes from a local fast food restaurant for one of the girls' parents. The parents drank about a quarter of the milkshakes, but didn't finish them, saying they tasted funny and were a little green. I'm sorry, this is not funny for them. All right. but didn't finish them, saying they tasted funny and were a little grainy. But the shakes, loaded with prescription drugs provided by the friend, were very effective, and the parents fell asleep. When they awoke in the morning with headaches and grogginess, they went to the police station to pick up a drug test kit. They tested positive, alerted the police, and the girls were arrested. All right, that's insane. That is crazy. You want to hear something even a little bit more odd? They interviewed a child therapist, all right, which both these girls needed. And here's what she said. A little bit of adolescent pushback as teens begin to express their individuality is a good thing. She goes on. But drugging your parents... She said this. I can't believe she said this. However... drugging your parents would not be considered a healthy level of rebellion. You think? You could have killed them. But the 15-year-old told police that her parents' internet policy was way too strict. Hashtag demon child. All right. Number 9, true story. Your husband tweeted while you gave birth. You want to hear the second part of this? Also true. She retweeted it while giving birth. Okay, and the last one's my wife's favorite, so I saved it for last. You've pinned every idea for your future wedding. And you're 12. And you're a boy. All right. This is the point where you admit if you have a small or large problem with technology. Just to the person next to you, no big deal, you don't have to come up. But if you need to, just admit to the person next to you, I may have a small problem with technology. Go ahead and tell them that you may have a small problem with technology. For those of you that do, I am here to help you out. All right, I am here to help you get past your technological issues that you're having. By the way, I forgot to show you this. Does anybody remember this guy right here, the Motorola Dynatec, 1984? Does anybody in the room remember this? Anybody in the room? Okay, we have a few dinosaurs. Sweet. All right, this was the brick, Motorola Dynatec. Now, my teenage friends, check this out. This was an awesome phone. All right, this was the first cell phone in America. Here's the specs on it. It cost $4,000. It had a talk time of 30 minutes. It weighed 2.5 pounds, which is, I think, 12 iPhones today. And had a recharge time. It only took 10 hours to recharge the phone, right? You'd pay $4,000 for that guy, wouldn't you? Did you know that we have now new phobias because of cell phones? There are actual phobias you can be diagnosed with because of cell phones. Some of you may have these. They're called nomophobia and ringxiety. These are real phobias. Nomophobia is when you get anxious at the thought of going somewhere without your phone. Do any of you have nomophobia? That you can't go anywhere without your phone. You get nervous to be without your phone. Right. Some of you are not very good at admitting things. Ringxiety is a little bit different. Ringxiety, probably most of you have. It's when you hear or feel your phone ringing when it is in fact not doing so. All right, do any of you have ringxiety? Okay, so we do have some more problems here. So with all these symptoms and all these problems we have technology, do you think there's any spiritual issues with technology? Do you think we might run into some spiritual issues? Well, apparently we are, because I want you to listen to this statement from Elder Oaks. He says, technology is winning away the time of our youth. Technology is winning away the time of our youth. Listen to this statement. Surfing the internet is not better than serving the Lord or strengthening the family. Can I say that again? Surfing the internet is not better than serving the Lord or strengthening the family. Some young men and women are cutting family time in order to pursue entertainment. Have you ever cut family time in order to pursue entertainment? I should see some elbows right about now from moms and dads. Have you ever cut family time in order to pursue entertainment? Now, this is the one I want you to catch on. Listen to this statement. Elder Oaks says, some young people are amusing themselves to death. Some young people are amusing themselves to death. Spiritual death. A social, emotional, spiritual death. That could be a problem. That statement right there reminded me of a book I once read. Did you ever read Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief? Anybody read that book? It's a popular teenage book. Those of you who haven't read it, let me give you the quick premise. Percy Jackson, teenage boy, has a job, save the world. That's his job. All right? He's got to save the world from total destruction. He has two friends to help him out. Who are they? Annabeth and Grover. They are going to help Percy Jackson save the world. They are traversing the country on their mission to save the world. Well, at one point on their mission, they run into a place called the Lotus Casino. Inside the Lotus Casino, they're on the mission. Remember, what was the mission? Save the world. Inside the Lotus Casino, they find that it is floor after floor after floor, wall to wall, games. It is nothing but games and amusement park rides. And they forget all about the mission. What was the mission again? Save the world. I can see why you'd forget that. I can see why they would be like, what was it? Oh yeah, let's play. And they start playing games. Let me read to you from the book. I want you to keep that thought in mind. Remember Elder Oaks? Some young people are amusing themselves to death. All right? It seems like a setup to me. Here's what it says. This is Percy Jackson speaking. I bungee jumped the lobby 6 times, did the water slide, snowboarded the artificial ski slope, and played virtual reality laser tag and FBI sharpshooter. And some boys are like, oh, that's my honeymoon. All right. I saw Grover a few times going from game to game. He was going from hunting game to hunting game. And if you know anything about Grover, that's pretty funny. All right. He says, I saw Annabeth playing trivia games and other brainiac stuff. She loved that. Now listen to this statement. I marked it in my book as I was reading. I'm not sure when I first realized it. Something was wrong. It's just playing games, right? Just playing. But something's wrong, he says. What tips him off is that he's playing with a kid who keeps saying the word groovy. This kid, every time he wins, he's like, that's groovy. And Percy Jackson finally says, why do you keep saying that? And the kid says, what are you talking about? Wait a minute. How long have you been here? I don't know, a couple weeks maybe? Percy Jackson says, what year is it? What? Just tell me, what year is it? It's 1977. He says, I started talking to other people. I found it wasn't easy. They were all glued to screens. Has that ever happened in your house? You ever tried to talk to somebody who's glued to a screen? That's always fun. If you do what I do, what makes my wife really kind of like get mad at me is when I turn my whole body to her except for my eyes. Do you guys ever do that? Right? She's like, Hank, look at me. I am. My whole body is facing you. 99% of me is looking at you. It's just my eyes are right here, right? On this Angry Birds Star Wars. He says, I started talking to people. I found it wasn't easy. They were glued to screens. I found a guy who told me it was 1985. Another guy told me it was 1993. They all claimed they hadn't been there very long. A few days, a few weeks at most. They really didn't know. They really didn't care. He figures out something is up. So he grabs Annabeth. Come on, I told her. We've got to get out of here. She doesn't even respond. Have you ever had that happen when someone's watching TV or something or playing a video game and you talk to them and they don't even acknowledge you? Right? So what do? You walk over and turn it off, right? And then you get that look. You. Right? He finds Annabeth. Come on, I told her. We've got to get out of here. She doesn't respond, so I shook her. Annabeth. She looked up at me annoyed. What? Annabeth, we need to leave. Leave? What are you talking about? Annabeth. Now listen to this statement. This place is a trap. You check in and you stay forever. This place is a trap. You check in and you stay forever. Well, they finally get out of the Lotus Casino. And what they thought was just a couple hours was how long? Do you remember? It's been 5 days. They've been in there 5 days. And they are 5 days behind on their mission. Now, think of the premise of the book. I realize this isn't scripture, but just think of the premise of the book. You have a kid whose job it is to save the world. He's got an opposition that doesn't want him to accomplish it. The opposition can't get this kid to do evil things. So instead of getting him to do evil things, I'll just what? I'll just distract him. And the mission will just pass him by. Right? Now I'm not saying that Minecraft or Pinterest is a trap of the devil. All right? That's not what I'm saying. However, have you ever sat down for what was going to be 5 minutes? It was just going to be 5 minutes. You were just going to check something. And 5 minutes turned into 5 hours. One funny video turned into 40 funny videos. And now it's dark outside and you haven't started your homework. Right? Apparently your entire family came home during that time. You didn't even notice. Right? You're like, oh wow, everyone's home. This is awesome. Right? I talked to a group of students once. It was just boys. So they could be totally honest. No girls. I said, what's the longest any of you have ever sat and played a video game? Longest time. No bathroom break, no food. It was 13 hours. One kid had sat and played a video game for 13 hours. He said, I started about 11 a.m. and I quit about midnight. And I did not move from that spot for 13 hours. He said, do you want to know the weird thing? He said, it felt like a half hour. It just felt like it just was gone. Right? That's an interesting thing. This place is a trap. You check in and you stay forever. In the Percy Jackson, I like what they did in the movie. This wasn't part of the book, but in the movie, do you remember when Percy Jackson decides to get out? One of the workers at the casino talks into his watch, I think, or talks into his earpiece. And what does he say? Do you remember? Percy Jackson's awake. I love that moment. Percy Jackson's awake. Almost like we had him asleep, and all of a sudden now he's back. I love that idea. Now listen to this statement from Lehi. Sounds very similar. Listen. 2 Nephi 1, verse 13. Oh, that you would awake. Awake from the deep sleep, yea, even the sleep of hell. Is that Facebook? The sleep of hell, right? Shake off the awful chains with which ye are bound. Awake, arise from the dust, and hear the words of a trembling parent, whose limbs ye must soon lay down in the cold and silent grave. He's a dramatic guy, Lehi, right? From whence no traveler can return. A few more days, I go the way of all the earth. Verse 23, awake, my sons. Put on the armor of righteousness, shake off the chains with which ye are bound, and come forth out of obscurity. I want you to write that word down if you're taking notes. Obscurity. And arise from the dust. I asked my students in that same class, those boys, I said, what does obscurity mean to you when it comes to technology? Now, this comes from a teenage boy, not from me. By the way, this teenage boy was addicted to video games. He said for about a year during his junior high years, he was totally addicted to video games. Here's what he said. He said, obscurity to me is the false sense of accomplishment I got from a video game. He said, I felt like I was doing something. And I find out a year later, I was actually doing nothing. I actually did absolutely nothing. The false sense of accomplishment. Come forth out of obscurity. Now, I'm not saying that all video games are evil. They have their place. However, that's an interesting statement. The false sense of accomplishment he got from video games. Now, you're going to recognize this conversation. This little girl right here is my daughter, Madeline. This picture, she and I just went up to Fargo together and spoke at a girls' camp. And there was this one time where I was standing in the kitchen and I'm on my phone and I was doing something really fun, like Candy Crush. And I was having a great time, okay? And out of the corner of my ear, you know how you hear someone, but it's not enough to get your attention? I hear this, Dad, 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 Hank. I said, what did you call me? And then she looked at me with a little attitude, hands on her hips. Okay, she's 9 years old. She goes, Dad, wake up from your phone. And she turned around and left. And I was like, how dare you? I like that. I'm going to write that down. And that's where I got my title from. Wake up from your phone. So this isn't really all about you. This is about me too. All of us get almost transfixed by things, right? And pretty soon we're pushing things out of our lives. Very important things. Listen to what Elder Bednar says. He agrees. He says, sadly, some in the church today ignore things as they really are and neglect eternal relationships for digital distractions. They neglect eternal relationships for digital distractions, diversions and detours that have no lasting value. No lasting value. I heard one girl say, I've pinned so much, there's no way I'll possibly ever do it all. But I just keep pinning. I just keep pinning, knowing I'm never going to do it. But for some reason, it makes me feel good to pin all of these things, right? Have no lasting value. Come forth out of obscurity. So what is Elder Bednar's advice to us? What is the church's advice to us? Do they say log off completely? Get rid of your phone. I heard that. That was great. It was perfectly timed. All right? You know, the church doesn't say you can't touch this stuff. Right? They're not like, hey, don't do it. Get in a dress. Churn butter. Right? That's not what they say. That is not what they say. Here is Elder Bednar. Here is his advice. And this is the one I want you to take seriously. Here's what he says. 3 words. Please be careful. Can you do that? Please be careful, he says, of becoming so immersed and engrossed in pixels, texting, earbuds, twittering, online social networking, and potentially addictive uses of media and the internet that you miss the richness of person-to-person communication. That you miss the richness of person-to-person communication. Now, one thing we're not talking about tonight is online pornography. I decided not to talk about that tonight, but I am going to do a little 1 minute, just 1 minute on it real quick. If you are involved, especially as a teenager, but anyone in here, if you are involved in any sort of online pornography, you've got to get out today. Not tomorrow, not next week. You've got to get out today. And as scary as it might be, I want you to talk to someone tonight. Tonight. I either want you to talk to the bishop tonight, or I want you to talk to your parents tonight and tell them what's going on. Now, I know you're like, no way, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'd be too embarrassed. I promise you, the embarrassment is not worth ruining your future. The embarrassment will come, but it will pass. And you'll get help, the help you need. Do not let it stay around. I have heard from so many young men that they thought for the longest time that they would tell people once they beat it. Once they got past it, then they would tell people. Do you see how that comes right from Satan himself? As soon as you get out, then you go talk. As soon as you get out, you go talk. Right? Knowing full well that you're not going to get out. They would go for years thinking, as soon as I get out, I'm going to talk to somebody. No. Promise me, promise yourself, promise your future family that you will talk to someone tonight. Do we have any bishops in the audience? We have one right here. Okay. Looks like, and maybe another one. Would you be available tonight? Absolutely. Talk to them tonight. That would be a brave and wonderful thing to do. In fact, I bet your bishop would say, I'm so glad you came to talk to me. Right? Not, how could you? Not, oh, you're the only person I've ever heard of that did this. Right? You have to get out of the ward. No, he's not going to do that. He is going to put his arms around you and he's going to help you through this. And so will your parents, I promise. All right, so that's my little blurb on that. But he says again, please be careful of becoming so immersed and engrossed in pixels, texting, earbuds, twittering, online social networking, and potentially addictive uses of media and the internet that you miss the richness of person-to-person communication. Just in case you need a second witness, Strength of Youth pamphlet. Spending long periods of time using the internet or mobile device, playing video games or watching television or other media. I'm glad they threw that in, or other media, because some of kids out here are thinking, oh, this is not my problem. However, I know some teenagers, if you gave them a stack of books and some food, you'd never see them again. Right? Other media. Right? If you're getting too much even into those, some of you are like, oh, that was low. Right? He hit me with the books. Yeah. Other media can keep you from valuable interactions with other people. Keep you from valuable interactions with other people. Be careful. Wow, there it is again. Be careful. Be careful that your use of social media does not replace spending time with your family and friends. You don't want to become one of those teenagers. We've all met them. Right? They're like, I love my computer. It's where my friends live. No, it's not where your friends live. I promise. Okay? That's just where their picture is stored. Anybody know what this is right here? Anybody know what that is? It looks like a book, doesn't it? It looks like a scripture quad almost. It's not. It's a snuff box. Right? Now if you're like, what in the world is a snuff box? Well, if you lived in the 1800s, you would know what a snuff box is. It's where when you bought your bag of tobacco, you poured part of it into your snuff box. And that's where you went to get your chewing tobacco on a daily basis. And there's someone that you know that chewed tobacco in the 1800s. His name's John Taylor. You ever heard that name before? Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, John Taylor. Truman G. Madsen tells this story. When John Taylor lived in England, he doesn't join the church until he moves to Canada. Before that, he lived in England. This is before the word of wisdom, like long before the word of wisdom, long before anybody says, hey, this might be bad for you. Everybody is chewing tobacco. He goes to reach for his snuff one day, but he stops. Interesting. He stops and he asks himself mentally this question. Wait a minute. Who's in charge here? Wait a minute. Who's in control here? And he says, listen. I love that. The box is like, okay. This great man says, listen, I will be a slave to nothing. And he never uses it again. I will be a slave to nothing. Think about that with you in Minecraft. I will not be a slave, right? You and Angry Birds, you and Pinterest, you and ice cream, right? I will be a slave to nothing. If we want to hit our adults here, you and Diet Coke. I will be a slave to nothing, right? All of a sudden people are like, how dare you? Right? There's someone who's really into books and Diet Coke that really hates me. All right. I will be a slave to nothing. I love that idea. I don't need someone to tell me that it's wrong. I can feel that it controls me. And I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to allow anything I asked a group of teenagers, give me ideas. How do you not get sucked in? How do you make sure that your technology, your phone, your video games, whatever it is, how do you make sure it doesn't control you? And here's what they said. Now, in order to make it up on my list here, they had to do two things. Number one, they had to choose it themselves. Their parents could not make them. And two, they had to do it for a long period of time. They couldn't be like, hey, I tried this last week and it really works. No, it had to be a good period of time, months or years, where they said, I've been doing this and it really helps. So if you want something on this list, I just want you to write it down. All right, here it is. Derek, who was 18, said, I put my Safari app, my internet app, 3 folders deep on my phone. He said, I did that so it would take me a while to open it. And every time it takes me a while to open it, it gives me time to think. Am I just wasting time? Or do I really need to do this right now? All right, here's a girl who's 15. Get this one. This was a big deal. She said, I asked my mom to change the Wi-Fi password every day and not give it to me until I got my homework done. I know some people, I just threw up in my mouth a little. Yeah, I know. But she said, I get good grades now. My grades totally improved. All right. One boy, his name was Tanner, he said, I will not take my phone to church. He said, other people can and they're in control. Me, I find myself on my phone. I don't even mean to. All of a sudden I'm on my phone and Sunday school's over. I haven't learned a thing. By choice. I just leave it home. One girl named Hannah, she said she had to turn all of her notifications off. Do you have a little blinking light on your phone, any of you, when something's happened? Right? She said that drove her crazy. She's doing her homework and she looks down and it's blinking. She's like, huh? It needs me. I have to help it. It's blinking. Help me, help me, help me. Right? And so she said, I'd just look at it, and it would be something really dumb like, Chelsea has invited you to play Candy Crush. And she's like, oh. But then she'd be like, what else is going on? And pretty soon that 30 seconds turns into an hour, right? And her homework is still sitting there undone. So she said, I just turned all my notifications off. Get this. A boy said, on a date, his phone stays in his car. What do you think about that? He said, my phone stays in my car. The interesting phrase he said after was, he said, you want to know why? Because my dad told me on a date I should be interested in one girl, the one I'm with. Interesting. All right. 2 girls decided to use their own laziness for their advantage, apparently. One girl said, I just make sure my phone's not in reach when I go to bed and I'm too lazy to get out of bed to go look at it. If that's you, hey, it works. One girl was not quite as lazy. She said, my bedroom's upstairs, but I keep all my chargers in the basement. So I have to charge my phone in the basement, and I won't go down there. She says, it's just too far. I just go down there and grab it before school. One girl, get this, said, I turn my phone off on Saturday, and I don't turn it back on till Monday. That's my way of showing the Lord that's your day. She said, everybody knows you can't get a hold of me on my phone on Sunday. Interesting, huh? And one boy who was 18 said, and this is probably one I hadn't thought of and I really liked. He said, I tithe my electronic space. 10% of my electronic space goes to general conference or church music or talks on CD, things that I can get that are gospel oriented. I tithe my space. And he said, I tithe my time, my listening time, and my time online. It's all 10% of it's going to go to like family history work or reading, getting prepped for the mission, things like that. Now, you can pick one of those and be like, that's a good idea. Write it down and maybe try it on your own. If you have one that you'd like to add to this list, I'm probably give this message other places. So just go to this Facebook address. Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm hip. All right. If you go to facebook.com/HankSmithCDs. I had to put the CDs on the end because someone else had Hank Smith. Apparently someone else has a dog name. So I added Hank Smith CDs. So if you go to that address, you can either come say hi. Hi, Brother Smith. I'd give you my email, but that's creepy. right? If your parents are like, who are you emailing? Just the 35-year-old man. Yeah, that's creepy. So I don't want you to do that. Just come to the Facebook address and post and say, hey, Brother Smith, here's what I do to make sure I don't get sucked into technology. And other people might read that and it'll bless their lives. So please come and give us ideas. All right, I want to finish tonight with 2 stories. The first one is about a family that I met in West Jordan when I was teaching in West Jordan. And the second is a story about my childhood. And then we'll wrap things up. This picture that you see is of a girl named Joni Nilsson and her older brother Ryan. I met Joni when she was a sophomore in high school. She has one of these awesome, rare relationships when I meet her with her brother. He's just the great older brother. Do any of you have a sibling you're really close to? You have one of those where it's just like, we were meant to be in the same family, right? We are just connected. That's how Joni and Ryan are. And even their little sister, Brooke, same way. They just are one of these, just a blessed family that every parent hopes that their kids get along, right? Parents, are you just going to nod with me here? It's the greatest feeling when your kids get along. You want to know what makes your parents feel like failures? When you fight with your siblings. I know they'll never say it. They're not going to guilt you into a good relationship. Please like them. It hurts me. No, they're not going to do that. But I know this because I'm a parent, and I've felt this many times, that I feel like a failure when my kids fight. I know it's not my fault all the time, but I feel like it is. So, kids, just so you know, man, when you guys play together and laugh together and do things together, it makes your parents just go, yes, yes. All right. Well, Joni and Ryan and Brooke, this family, they have this type of relationship. They're very close. In fact, Joni told me, she said in high school, Ryan was this popular baseball player, and he would get calls on Friday night from friends, even girls, who said, do you want to go with us? We're going to a party or we're going to a movie. And he would say these words, no thanks, I'm hanging out with my sisters. Just a golden kid. Awesome. Well, the story goes like this. Joni was in her freshman 6-period class, I think, right towards the end of her freshman year, when she got a call to come to the office. She wasn't expecting this, and so she put on her backpack and headed towards the office, not knowing that her life is about to change forever. Up at the baseball field just a few hours earlier, her older brother Ryan was in the batting cages getting ready for that afternoon's baseball game. His best friend was feeding baseballs into the machine when there was an accident. One of those balls ricocheted, either off the bat or off part of the cage, struck Ryan in the neck, right below his batting helmet, burst the artery going to his brain, and he died 40 seconds later. His best friend called for him to get up. Ryan, get up. And as this little 9th grade girl is walking down to the office, not knowing why, I've pictured her in my mind. I picture her getting to the office door, seeing her mother, knowing that something is wrong the moment she sees her face. And I've pictured from a distance, in my mind, my friend Joni getting that news. That her best friend, her hero, really, is gone. In my mind, I see her on that tile floor of her middle school as she screams in her mind, wake up, wake up, wake up. It's just a nightmare. Wake up. I asked her to write you. I don't want to do this because I want to get you emotional. That's not my point. My point is to wake you up. Do you remember what Percy Jackson said to Annabeth and what Lehi said to his sons? Wake up. Wake up. You're missing this. Listen to what she says to you. It's going on 8 years now since we lost him. I hope to help you realize the importance of your family and how quickly it can change. And then memories are all you have. My advice would be never let your phone, your computer, your iPod, anything get in the way of your family, because those things will be around forever. But unfortunately, that's not the case with your loved ones. My memories with Ryan are all I have, and they mean a whole lot more to me than my phone ever will. Sorry I rambled. I just love and miss him so much. 3 days after she wrote this to me, she posted on Facebook. It was the 8-year anniversary, and she wrote this. 8 long years without my big brother. 8 years without wiffle ball games in the front yard, 1 a.m. trips to Wendy's, and sleeping on his top bunk on Christmas Eve. 8 years since I've talked to my big brother. I love you, Ryan, and I miss you more than words could express. Now, I want you to keep that story just paused in your mind as I tell you this second story. When I was 12 years old, every summer, really, my parents had a tradition. They loved to ruin the first day of summer. It was Memorial Day every year where I grew up. And as Sunday night would roll around, and I was so excited for the first day of summer, my parents would remind us all that we are traveling 3 hours to the cemetery to put flowers on graves. And then we're traveling 3 hours home. And I would yell at them, why? Why do you do this? Why do you torture me so? The worst part was, and I'm just going to speak out of my 12-year-old mind, okay? The worst part was I had to sit next to my grandma the whole way there and the whole way back. And don't get me wrong, I loved my grandma, but I did not want to touch her for that long. All right, she's old, she's leathery. I just did not want to touch her that long. And so I would hug the door. I remember holding to the door, pressing my body against the door. My brother's on the other side doing the exact same thing. All right, I'm like, how you doing over there? He's like, she touches me. All right, now don't get me wrong, we loved our grandma. It was just, we were little and awkward. And she would talk and talk and talk. And she's like, hello, boy. All right, I'm like, hi, grandma, keep your teeth in. So we would drive, you guys, the 3 hours to the cemetery. Another part that really bothered me, again, 12-year-old mind, why did we have to buy flowers? That just took longer. There was flowers there already. We could just take some off of this side and move them onto ours. I remember frequently saying, Dad, what a waste of money. Look at all of these. I'll get some. Don't worry about it. One more thing out of my 12-year-old mind. I thought cemeteries were just really bad parks. I really did. I remember getting out of it thinking, oh, look at all that grass. No, obstacles everywhere. You can't run, you can't play, and anytime you touch anything, your parents yell, disrespectful at you. Right? I remember just walking around. My mom's like, that's disrespectful, Hank. I'm like, what does he care? He's been dead since 1941. He really doesn't mind. Do you mind? He doesn't mind, Mom. All right. Oh, I hated this day. I got to be honest. As a kid, I hated this day. All right. 1 year, and I think it was when I was 12. We are again at the cemetery. We pull in. I eject out of the car. All right. And I am doing my 12-year-old thing, walking around doing nothing. All right. My parents are over looking at the ground. My sisters are off playing or something. And my brother, I don't know where he was. All right. I came around an evergreen bush, a big, big evergreen bush, to hear my grandma's voice. And I can see the rest of my family. And I'm like, who's she talking to? So I poke my head around the bush. And my grandmother is talking to the ground. I mean talking, not whispering. She is talking to the ground, like hand movements, the whole thing. And I, at 12 years old, was like, oh no, it's finally happened. I knew it. She cracked. And I'm 12. I want to see crazy up close, so I sneak up a little bit. She sees me and says, oh, hi, Hank. And I'm like, wait, you don't sound crazy. My response was, 12-year-old, Grandma, what are you doing? To which she says, and I still remember her exact words. Her exact words were, I'm talking to my family. What? She said, come here, let me introduce you. She put her arm around me, and I didn't mind so much this time, as she said, Hank, these are my parents. 2 headstones. And I went, oh. I looked at my parents. I was like, Grandma? And then she said, these are my siblings. I'm one of the youngest in my family, and most of my siblings have passed away. I looked at my siblings, and I'm like, Now, I'll be honest. It had never occurred to me that my grandma was young. All right? She'd always been old ever since I knew her. And I all of a sudden saw her as a little girl. And I was like, Grandma, these are the people you ate dinner with. She's like, yeah. Grandma, these are the people you went on vacation with. She's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, Grandma, they're all gone. She's like, yeah, they are. I said, that's so sad. And I remember my grandmother cracked a joke. Right at this moment, she said, it's okay, dear. I knew they were all gone before we got here. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess that helps. Now, this is the not so subtle part. I heard Elder Holland say once, with teenagers, anything subtle doesn't seem to work. So this is the not so subtle part. I realized something that you may realize for the first time tonight. That one day I was going to stand at the headstones of my parents. I had never thought of that. I just figured they'd always be there. But one day I realized I was going to be the one standing at the headstones of my parents. There will come a day for probably almost everyone in this room, if it hasn't happened already, that you will visit your parents at the cemetery. And there will be actual dates on those headstones. It will not be a nightmare. They will be gone. And I'm going to make you a promise. When you are standing there, you are going to talk to those headstones. And I honestly believe that you're going to say something like this. Mom, Dad, I'd give anything for 10 more minutes. Just 10 more minutes. I would love to talk to you and see you. I got a question. I need advice. I need to apologize. And then those 10 minutes won't come. Do you remember what Lehi said? From whence no traveler can return. Now, with those two stories in mind, Joni and my childhood story there at the cemetery with my grandma, get into my mind as I walked into the grocery store the other day with my 6-year-old son. And I said, Mason, look at this teenager. Sometimes we go teenager watching. It's like the Discovery Channel. And I'm like, Mason, look at this teenager. All right, this teenage girl was behind her mother in the grocery store. As her mother shopped, she stared at her phone. And her mother, like a seeing eye dog, guided this girl around the store. She did not look up. We followed. All right, and this girl did not look up. She stared at this phone and just stayed behind this shadow of her mother the entire way. It had to be 10, 15 minutes. She stared at this thing without looking up. Now, I don't know what was so amazing on there. It must have been the scriptures. But all I could think in my mind was, oh, she's right there. There's your 10 minutes. She is right in front of you. She is right there. One day you were going to wish she was right there and she's not going to be there. She's right there. Get her, grab her, jump on her. She is right there. And you're staring at a phone. And she is right there. Now, I don't want you to be weird, okay? I don't want you to go home from this and be like, come here. Right? They're like, what? Just come here. I gotta talk to you before you're dead. Right? No. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that. All right? Your parents will be like, you're never going to a fireside ever again. What are they doing to you there? I don't want you to do that, but I do want you to do this. I have this vision, all right? Here's this vision. I have this vision that tomorrow you're going to get home from school. And your mom's going to say, how was your day? And you're saying, it was great, great. And you're going to tell her a little bit about your day. And then sitting on the counter is going to be your phone. And it's going to go, and you're both going to go, huh? You both look at it. And your mom's going to think, this is where we lose her, right? I wish I could get rid of that thing. And you are automatically going to think, oh, who's that? But here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop. I want you to either hear Lehi saying, awake, right? Or hear Percy Jackson, wake up. Annabeth, wake up. This place is a trap. or hear my grandma, this is my family, or hear Joni, don't let anything get in the way of your family. I want you to hear something like that, and I want you to flip that thing over and keep talking to your mom. Now, she might be, at first, she'll be, what just happened? You okay? Something wrong? Who's in a fight with you? Right? And I want you to say, no, I just want to talk to my mom. And just talk. Or your dad's going to come home from work tomorrow and you're going to be playing video games, or you'll be online, and he'll say, hey, and you'll say, hey, Dad. And usually you go right back to that game, but not this time. Even mid-level, you're going to turn it off. I know, you're like, oh, mid-level? Yes, mid-level. You're going to turn that off. You're going to turn around and you're going to go, hey, Dad, how was your day? Now he might, what? Me? Yeah, how was your day? Fine. How was yours? And you might have to spur him on a little bit because he won't know what's going on. Yeah, you might say something like, Dad, what do you do all day? Right? I know you go away for long periods of time. What is it that you do there? Right? Something where you sit and you talk. So when the day comes that, yes, you will go and talk to those headstones, but you'll also think, I had a great relationship with my family. I don't regret one bit of the time I spent with them. Let's finish. The Savior loved analogies. And so we're going to create a little modern day New Testament analogy. He loved parables and analogies. He used those things to teach people, right? And I picture him like holding some grapes or holding a cup of wine and saying, when a branch is connected to the grapevine, it produces lots of fruit, right? And his disciples are like, yeah, we know, right? And he says, I am the vine. You are the branches. When you're connected to me, your life will have lots of fruit. But cut yourself off from me and you'll wither and die. And then he made this statement, for without me, you can do nothing. Without me, you can do nothing. So let's do our modern day example. I honestly believe that the Savior wouldn't use grapes today, because not many teenagers here prune grapes, right? Not very many. When you left, you're like, Mom, Dad, just take care of the grapes. I'm going to go to the fireside, right? Not very many people were worried about their grapes when they left, right? I do think, however, he would say this. I think he would hold up this phone right here. And he would say, you are the phone. You are incredible. I am the charger. Without me, you're dead. Without me, you can do nothing. Right? What good is this phone without that charger? It's going to be good for a couple more hours and then it's a paperweight, right? A weapon, maybe. That's it. Right? That's it. But with that charger, this thing is going to bless my life. I'm going to use it to bless my life and bless others. What if we were to do this? What if I were to challenge you? I want you to go home today, you teenagers, and I want you to print out in very small font. You know how to do this. Without me, ye can do nothing. And I want you to scotch tape that to your charger. And every time you plug that phone in, and you hear it beep, right, as it juices back up for you, I want you to think, have I connected to him today? Have I prayed today? Have I read my scriptures today? Am I going to Mutual like I should? Am I going to the temple as often as I should? Am I fasting like I should? Have I connected to him? Because he did say, without me, ye can do nothing. Elder Holland said it this way. Christ is everything to us, and we are to abide in him. Abide means connect or become one with. Connect to him permanently, unyieldingly, steadfastly, forever. I hope that is a definition of your relationship with Christ. Permanent, unyielding, steadfast, forever. For the fruit of the gospel to blossom and bless our lives, we must be firmly attached to him. We must be firmly attached to him. Elder Bednar said something that I think was so profound that we are going to finish with. I testify that Jesus is the Redeemer, whose body was bruised, broken, and torn for us as he offered the atoning sacrifice. He is resurrected. Not he might be. Not we hope he is. He is resurrected. He lives. And he stands at the head of his church. To be encircled about eternally in the arms of his love will be a real and not a virtual experience. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
The following bonus tracks are excerpts from a seminar Hank Smith gives on building trust. We hope you enjoy the presentation.
I was with a marketing business in Detroit about a year ago, and the CEO makes, a couple $1 million a year. Really nice guy, but he was interested in trust in his organization, which is what my PhD was in, was organizational trust. And so he said to me, "What do I have to do to build trust?" He said, "Just tell me what I need to say." It was kind of a hard conversation, especially because he's not a church-going guy. I said, "It's not about saying or doing anything. I need you to be something." And he was kind of like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I can't teach you the right things to say. I can't teach you the right things to do. I need you to be certain things. That's the only way this is going to work. The only way to build trust within an organization is for the CEO to be something, not do things or say things." So what we're going to talk about today is not about what you say or do. It's about what you are, which is kind of personal. I realize that, but I'm hoping to help a little bit. Let me show you. So this is from Stephen Covey, who I look up to a lot. He says, "There are basic principles of effective living, and people can only experience true success as they learn and integrate those principles into their basic character. What we are communicates far more eloquently than anything we say or do." Does that make sense? Reliability is the idea that in order to trust you, I need to be able to rely on you, right? You need to be there for me. Have you ever been to Yellowstone? Most of us have. You've been to Yellowstone National Park. What is the tallest geyser in Yellowstone? Did anybody go to it? Tallest geyser? Old Faithful, right? Yellowstone National Park. The tallest geyser isn't actually Old Faithful. It's Steamboat, which is 3 times the size of Old Faithful. But guess why nobody goes? It's not reliable. Yeah, and you never know. It's had 5 minutes between eruptions. It's also gone 76 years without an eruption, right? So nobody goes up there because you don't know if it's going to erupt. Where does everybody go? Everybody goes to Old Faithful, even though it's smaller. Why? It's faithful. It's predictable, right? Isn't there a little clock right there that tells you, like, in approximately the next eruption's going to? I wish we had one of those in my kitchen, right? Mom's next eruption will be in the next few minutes. Everyone just kind of hunkers down and gets away. All right. I'm not asking you to be the best parent, the best teacher, the best team member, the best principal, whatever. I'm not asking you to be the best, but if you could go for most predictable, that people can trust you. Those of you who have children, have you ever heard this kind of conversation like, "Can you come play at my house?" I don't know. It depends on which mom I have when I get home, right? Sometimes mom's in a good mood. I can do lots of things. Sometimes mom's in a bad mood and I'm in jail. That's not predictable. I don't know what I'm going to get with you. I need to be able to predict your behavior. That's part of trust. I need to be able to predict that, this is how she'll react. She always reacts this way. But I grew up the son of a golf professional. And when you grow up the son of a golf professional, you really don't like golf because that's all you do is golf. We lived on the golf course, and my dad was like, "Let's go golfing." He's always, "Let's go golfing." That was his way, and it was always like, "No." But we did because, we needed the cash from Dad, and so you want to stay on Dad's good side. In our family, when everybody wants to get done, that's the whole point of going out there, so we can all be done and go do what we really want to do. And when you hit the ball somewhere like this, close to the cup, you'd never go and put it in because everyone would be annoyed that you actually took the time to do that because that delayed us a few seconds. So what you would do is you'd reach down, pick up the ball, put it in your pocket, and just keep going because you're going to miss that one out of, 1,000 times, and nobody cares anyway. My sister Chantal, she went into professional golf. She was the one, my dad loves her the most. She's the one that really took to it and loved it. I teach and inspire youth, and he doesn't care about that. But my sister golfs. Now, she's playing in a state amateur tournament here in Utah. It's a 3-day tournament, 3 18-hole rounds, okay? Do you guys golf? golf? At least you know enough about golf that I could talk about this and you understand? Okay, so she's leading going into the third day. So she's won the first 2 rounds, and she's leading going into the third day. So that means she's going to tee off first with second place, third place, and fourth place. Those 4 girls are going to play together. Okay? And they play 16 holes, and they get on the 17th hole, and my sister Chantel hits it within this close of the cup. Oh. Now, she has a bad habit from our family, and that is she walks over, picks up the ball, and puts it in her pocket, and walks away. Oh. Now, the 3 other girls she's with all just kind of look at each other, like, did that really just happen? Now, there's rules, obviously. The rule is, if she comes back, if she thinks, oh my goodness, what did I do? And she places her ball, she takes a 2-stroke penalty, and she can continue. But if she goes to the 18th hole and tees off, she's disqualified from all 3 days. So they all putt out. What's called putt out is they all put their ball in, and they go to the next hole. By the way, when you're playing in a tournament like this, you keep track of another player's score. You're swapping. So, you ask, like, what did you get? And there's kind of that verification process. And she leaves her score blank. She just leaves her score blank because she never put her ball in. So they go, and my sister tees off on 18. Everybody else tees off on 18, and they finish, and Chantel says she's won, right? Well, at least for right now, she's winning. She beat all these 4 girls, and there's other girls coming in, but the odds of them catching her are pretty slim. So she goes, and what you have to do is before you go to the referee and you sign your scorecard, meaning the girl that kept my score did it right. So you check your scorecard that you kept yourself, and you check theirs, you say, okay, they're both correct. So she goes to sign her scorecard, and she doesn't have a final score. And she said, where's my score? And the girl said, you didn't finish 17. She said, yes, I did. Yes, I did. And they said, no, you didn't. And so the 2 other girls right there, and she says, did she? And they're like, you didn't. You never finished. You picked up your ball. And they said, well, let's go talk to the referee, who that day was my dad. So they go to talk to the head referee. These 4 girls come walking over. Of course, they're all very concerned, lots of tension. And they start to explain the situation. She didn't put a ball in. And he says, Chantel, did you putt in? And they all say, no, she didn't. And she goes, I'm sure I did. Dad, I'm sure I did. And he said, are you sure? And the 3 other girls say she didn't. And they look at her, and she pulls this one. I don't know if you girls ever did this, but she pulled the eyes, and then the word, Daddy. Right? You're not going to really do this to me, right, Daddy? Right? I'm your little sweetheart. I'm your favorite. All right? And he said automatically, oh, I'm so sorry. You're disqualified. And he tears her card and sets it down. Oh, I was 14. I was sitting behind. It was the funniest thing. Because my sister erupts, right? She erupts. She just stomps off, grabs her clubs, throws them in her car. I mean, she's just crying. You can tell she's like, how could my own father do this to me, right? You could hear her peeling out of the driveway. And of course, the other 3 girls are kind of snickering with each other. She should have stuck around because she missed the best part, which is he asked then the 3 girls. He said, did you see her make that mistake and you didn't tell her? Yes. And he asked 3 girls that. Did you? Yes. He said, oh, I'm so sorry, girls. You're all disqualified. It's against the rules in golf to see another player break a rule and not tell them. So the girl in 5th place was like, yes, right? She actually won the state am that day because the 4 girls got disqualified. The 4 leading girls got disqualified. Well, the whole point of this story is later on. Years later, after she went through therapy, we were driving and we were talking about that because I had been there and she was there, of course. And I said, did you really think Dad was going to drop it and just give you a score? And she said, are you kidding? It's Dad. And then she said this, has he ever done a dishonest thing in his life? Now, that's what I'm talking about with reliability. I always know what I'm going to get from you. I always know, right? No matter how much I kick and scream, I know what I'm going to get because you're predictable. If I had to leave you with one thing, again, this is a really quick version of this, but the best way to show compassion for another person is to listen to them. Out of all the literature, that's the best way to earn moral authority in someone's life, is to listen to them. Now, there's levels of listening, and we all do these. There's the 5th level of listening, which is where things don't register. Who's ever done this type of listening, where someone's talking to you and you have no idea what they're saying? Good. Yeah, that's the does not register. Actually, a higher level of listening is the fourth level of listening. It's called ignoring someone. You actually have to listen to them in order to ignore them, because you wouldn't know when to stop ignoring them, right? So ignoring someone is actually a higher level of listening than some of us usually do. 3 is the most common. I call that casual listening. That's what we do most common. We multitask listen, right? You're writing an email as you're talking on the phone. You're texting as you're talking to someone. I do this all the time. My wife, she can't stand this part because I do a lot of listening like this as she's talking to me. Uh-huh. No. And she says, look at me. So I go like this. I am. My entire body is facing you, right? As I look at this phone. That's casual listening, and that's what most of us do. The one we learned in college, do you remember active listening? Do you remember learning active listening? Do you remember what the skills were? What did you have to do? You make lots of eye contact, right? You face them, you repeat back, oh, no. Are you serious? I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Wow. Right? And that's a great level of listening. If we could do that more, we would have so much better communication, right? If all my attention is listening to you. But that's not the highest form of listening. The highest form of listening is what I call compassionate listening. It's where you listen so closely, you start to feel what the other person feels. You try to see things from their shoes. And that's hard to do, I'll admit. It's really hard to do. It takes energy, it takes time. Sometimes we don't want to put in that kind of time. But those of you who, you've had to do this before. You had to see life from a 15-year-old boy's eyes, right? And wonder why he does the things he does. I try to do this every day. When I get home, I try to see life from a mother of 5's eyes. Right? And I've never been a mother of 5. And I have this 11-year-old girl in my house, and I'm trying to see things from the 11-year-old girl's perspective. I'll give you an example of this. I was working with a father and a daughter once who came to me, and they really needed help. They were not getting along, and I was friends with them, and they said, you do this sort of thing, right? So could we come talk to you? And I said, sure. And so she said, my biggest problem, she's 16. He does not listen to me. And he says, yes, I do. I do too. I listen to her. He's looking at me, and I said, well, what do you mean he doesn't listen to you? And she said, last night, what did we talk about? And he's like, I know what we talked about. I totally listened. You don't have a date to prom. You're super upset about it. Told you I listened. And she said, and what did you say? Apparently, this is what happened. She was very devastated because all of her friends got dates except for her. So she's laying on the couch and she's just in tears, and he comes and sits and listens to her, and she says, you know, Julie has the date, and she has a date, and she has a date, and she has a date, and she's going with him, and he's so cute, and da-da-da-da-da. And at the very end of the conversation, as he's listening, he pats her on the leg, and he really listened. He really heard her. He pats her on the leg, and he said, sweetheart, this is not a problem. Get a mortgage. That's a problem. And now, what type of listening was he doing? Active listening. He was there, he was focused on her, but he didn't go up that one level to compassionate listening. He didn't try to see it from her eyes, because in her eyes, is it a problem? Yeah, it's a big problem. From his eyes, it's really not a problem. And to be honest, I probably agree with him. I'm like, this is not a big issue. You'll get over it really quickly, I promise. But not from this perspective right now, not from the 16-year-old's eyes. That's what I'm talking about with compassionate listening. And I'll say it this way. Being understood, being truly understood by another person is like breathing for the first time. I don't know if you have anybody in your life who truly gets you and takes the time to really understand you. How does that feel? Right? When someone really listens and tries to see it from your shoes and really sees it, and you go, oh, yes, finally somebody understands what it's like to be me, right? What air is to the lungs, being understood is to the heart, to the soul. If you can give this gift to someone, your spouse, your children, parents, this is a gift that you give people to truly understand them. And it's a method for success. Look what Henry Ford said. He said, if there's one secret to success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and to see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. There's one secret, he says. Henry Ford was pretty successful. He said, if there's one secret, that's it. That's it, trying to see things from other people's point of view. And I'll give you one little rule of thumb. Generally, as long as a person is communicating with higher emotion, it's because they don't feel understood. They don't feel understood. Have you ever dealt with a parent who's super emotional? Right? They don't feel like anybody at the school understands what they're trying to say. A customer in a sales department, super emotional. They don't feel understood. A student, Super emotional, they don't feel understood. A spouse, all this the same way. If they just feel very frustrated, very angry, they need, what do they need? They need air. Does that make sense? If they were underwater, let's put them underwater. If they're underwater and you're trying to get them to calm down, right? You're like, just calm down. I need you to calm down. And they're not calming down. Why? What do they need? They need air. Once they get air, what will happen? They'll calm down and they'll listen to you, right? But they need air. And even if you offered them $10 million, they wouldn't take it. They need air. Well, that's how someone is when they're really emotional. They need to be understood. And once you give them that need is met, they're much more likely to listen and pay attention at this point. I'll say this too, because this can get a little bit dicey. Just because you seek to understand someone doesn't mean you agree with them. A lot of us don't want to try to understand someone because that's almost a sign as if I agree with you. That's not the case. When you try to understand someone, you're just giving them air. You can disagree with them later, and they'll probably be much more likely to take that disagreement because you tried to understand them.
We hope you have enjoyed the presentation. Our authors and artists enjoy hearing from their listeners. You can write to them, care of Covenant Communications, P.O. Box 416, American Fork, Utah 84003, or by email at info@covenant-lds.com. To receive additional information on Covenant products, visit our website at www.covenant-lds.com.